They hate when you elevate. They stacking up losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly.
Yo, what's up, world? Welcome back to another episode. I am Sbpres on another great edition of Express Yourself with Sbpres. And like I said, I have a new segment of ways that I want to start this off. Everything's about evolution. So again, the expression of the week. The expression of this week would be, for me, positivity. I feel like there's enough negative Nances and negative Nancys and BS going on throughout everyday life to where people should definitely go into things from the moment they get up with more of a positive perspective. It would have a better outlook on their day, and actually it would resonate with other people. If you have a dark cloud over you and people can see that, they're going to stay away. So it makes it hard for people to say good morning. How are you? So yeah, just be more positive, and then I think more positive you put out, more positive comes in. And that leads me into the most positive individual that I've been coming across the airwaves of on the internet. He is amazing, amazing, amazing. Author. I want to say modeling chops is crazy, but mainly I want to coin you as the mental health master. What you do is definitely helping a lot of individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Dennis Henning.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure. And,
I'm just shaking off the nerves.
well, you know, what you just said is an amazing thing. I deal with a lot of people. The one thing I've told myself years ago, I wake up, I have a purpose. And the purpose for me is I deal with a lot of, we've talked briefly here.
Yes.
I deal with a lot of psychological stuff that just sets me off tremendously. And as we talked about, other people, like you said, saying hello.
Yes.
Someone says hello to you wrong, it might remind you of something that happened in the past.
Triggers.
It might trigger you, but it's up to you to figure out how to deal with it. If you said hello to me a bad way, well, you're not the same person if I grew up that way. If someone else treated me wrong and it created trauma, you're not that person. But it's hard for people that I come across and I see on a day-to-day basis, and myself at times, not to have a purpose. If you wake up with a purpose to be cruel and mean and state, I'm going to be who I am no matter what happens to you, it's a negative effect. So the way you started this is exactly the way it should be.
And it also goes into a saying that a lot of my close friends know me for saying, wake up and be great on purpose, but always be grateful.
Oh, God, yeah.
Always, because that moment's never promised.
The best part, like what you just said, nothing's promised.
Right.
I think it's interesting when people say, I promise you. Because it's like, in my work, a lot of people use the word appears. Okay, now, it appears as if the person's depressed. It appears as if the person just murdered 2 people. Okay, well, they got a gun holding on. They got blood on them. Appears means you're taking a guess. So, but if you say, as evidenced by, it's a whole different story.
Complete.
And so, like you just said, when people have an attitude or people are having a bad day, what do? If you don't have other people to look up to, if you don't have mentors, like I had a guest on named Clifton West, his brother's Cornell West.
Yes.
And Cornell's just a brilliant mind. Clifton's mind is the same. One is more popular throughout the world, but the person also behind Cornell is his brother Clifton. And his positivity makes me just want to freaking get toothaches all the time. And I love him. I'm like, is there anything negative? And he always says, if you look at the positive, there's negative in it, but you don't have to point out the negative.
Right.
Because if you know how you are, you already know how you are. Arguments. Like I always tell people, when an argument happens, when people start screaming, what happens? No one hears a damn thing.
Absolutely not.
Because you're arguing. My voice is going to get higher.
You're
Yours
just
is
hearing the voice tempo, and you feel like I need to raise mine to be heard.
And there's no solution.
Absolutely not.
I work with different people, and they're always saying, Dennis, you need to look through a solution. Because some of the work I do when I train and work with therapists and doctors and stuff, they look at me like, well, you're less than because you're not a doctor or a therapist. And I'm like, I'm less than in your field. But with what I do, I'm pretty much at the top in my mind.
I'm greater than.
Yes. So it doesn't matter. We're not equal. I'm never better than you, but I'm no worse than you.
Right.
And that's what people need to understand. Whoever you come across doesn't mean what their education is, doesn't mean how much money is in their pocket, doesn't mean what kind of car they drive. A lot of people want to base their lives off that. Well, I can tell you, I've worked with athletes, I've worked with individuals in the celebrity field. Everything you see is great, but they can't pay their bills. They're in debt. they're going to a P. Diddy concert.
That's right. Everything that glitters is not gold.
No. And so,
especially at a P. Diddy concert. Especially there.
well, you also think about social media. Social media is an amazing thing. I'll give it, but it also is the most detrimental thing for everybody.
Right.
Because whatever you want to find, you'll find. When you go on there and you're talking to people and you're seeing people and you're seeing images, the body image that people want, they want you to look like someone, whether it's male or female. Okay, what did it take them to get there? How much torture? How much did you starve yourself? Or how well are you doing? Because everybody, the one thing I've learned, and we all at some point in our life want to be like that person.
Right.
One of the greatest things I'd ever heard, Mother Teresa years ago said, I get mad at God, people get upset at me. I argue with God daily. And there's a lot of people who are religious, and whatever you believe, you believe.
Right.
But a lot of people say, well, God gave us free will. So you're telling me God didn't create anything that was negative? To me, yes. And if you got to go by a Bible or a book or something that was written by men, now think about it. Us men, we're imperfect. I don't know about you, but if I lived when Jesus was around, it would have been Jesus, then Dennis. And I had to figure out a name to make it look good.
Find your way.
Yeah. And the reality is, there were no women to help create those. They just weren't. And so if you're going to abide by something that's written hundreds of years ago and you're going to put it into today's society, it might not work. People need to realize just because we have an answer that there's always other answers. You've got to be open-minded.
Right.
And by waking up and doing what you just said and really being grateful, it's a blessing. And how many people do you come across that say they're grateful, but their actions are different?
Too many to actually answer that with a number. And it's all about energy. A lot of people, energy is off and stuff. Some people will say the right things, but then their energy is displaying different. So that's kind of how I come into it. And it's just, regardless on what they reciprocate, my initial point is positivity. You can just take my positivity, like a succubus, take it with you. But if you're not going to use it for yourself, give it to someone else that could use it.
And, it's so funny. You and I just met downstairs. And before you walked in, you could feel, before you turned around, you could feel. Now, if you walked in a bad mood or whatever, you don't wear your emotions on your sleeve like that. You could feel the positivity. When I shook your hand, I could feel the positivity, the sincerity.
Yes.
A lot of people have that, but inside they're like, I'm here because I'm going to get paid. I'm here because there's a purpose. I'm here. And that
sounded very similar to one I used to hear on a regular.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And funny, we've all been there. I always think it's interesting when people say, I've never done something like that. Look, there's two things I've never done in life. I've never murdered, never been inappropriate to a female, never done something like that. Now, when it comes to other things, I've done a lot of things, and I'm very straightforward with it. But I made the choices.
Right.
And a lot of people, when you make a choice, it's always somebody else's problem. It's one thing I use with people. It's like actions from choices equal change. You think about it. If you want to change, what do? You got to figure an action. So you figure an action. Are you going to go do it? If you do it, you have a chance. Never doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Right.
Because there's so many variables of people, places, things.
Different possibility.
Coming up here, the weather. Okay. It was raining a little bit. You get here, there are people I talk to today, it's a bad day. The weather affects me. And I'm like, okay, if you let it affect you,
then it will.
And there are people who have health issues and mental health that deals with, dealing with the weather.
Yeah, arthritis and things of that nature.
But if you know it,
it could be prevented.
Yeah. You can work on that. It's like I get up every morning. I work out for an hour and a half. It's floor exercises. I combine Pilates and something called Legree. I'm 62 years old. I take care of myself. I'm around people half my age that are about ready to die.
Better than me, I'm kind of, like, man, maybe I should have wore a tighter shirt.
Now you're making fun of my vest.
No,
okay.
I'm just you're just very like.
Well, you know what? It's part of
solid.
It's part of taking care of yourself,
right?
Because you think about it. If you feel good, you're going to do better. You're going to like. If I like me, I'm going to like you. If I don't like me, F you. I don't give a shit what you could do for me.
I agree with you.
That's the thing. And a lot of people just think, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I used to have something where I'll start tomorrow. It was 30 years of tomorrow. Really? Right. I'm not guaranteed 3 o'clock today. I'm hoping so because I'm hungry as hell. So I want to eat at 3 o'clock.
Right.
So there's reasons that we set times and we set goals and stuff. But taking care of yourself, whether it's walking, even what we're eating, people don't realize that. What happens when you're feeling bad? You eat something that makes you feel good. Or you even go worse, you drink something, you do drugs, you do something always makes you feel good.
Right.
But then when you're a little bit sobered up, even if it's from food, you hate yourself. Your work might not be, your relationship might not be. you alienate people, and I know when I do things that affect me negatively, I already know I know the outcome the next day. So I've learned to live with it, and I stay away from people because I know I'm going to have a negative effect on them. And I have learned that in the past and be like, oh, no. If I'm having a bad day, fuck you and your mother. You're having a bad day with me.
Right. I'm just going to pull you with me.
Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people do. And it's important, I think, for like what you do and what you want to do is to let people know there's opportunities.
Yes.
But it starts with us. It's like we have such a disparity in our country when it talks about economic, when it talks about culture. But you also have people, whether you have money, don't have money, whether you come from your whatever religious background you are, whatever your culture is, there are people who've gotten themselves and tied up their boots and made it happen.
Yep.
Against every freaking odd. And other people say, I can't do that. Well, if it's generational, if I can't do that, of course you're not going to do that.
And with that type of mindset too, of course you won't. You're limiting yourself with the mindset that you're already setting yourself up for failure with.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier before we went on about growing up where you had the neighboring areas. Now, see, I never thought of it that way, but it's just like being in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a family. I always tell people we have our birth families. Then you go to work or your friends, you have a different family. One might be the dad model, the mom model, might be your cousins, all the different things.
Some people have at-home wives and work wives.
and they do.
Yeah.
And they literally do. And it works for them.
Right.
So explain a little bit about that to me, what you were talking about the communities around where you grew up.
Okay, so
I have a better understanding.
No, so basically, I'm from Compton, California, and for me, it was more so sections and areas. But for the section and area that I grew up in, predominantly all the schools and everything, all the parents knew everyone. So you get in trouble, you just better hope no one sees it, because it doesn't have to be your parent at this point that's going to basically pull you off the street and whoop your ass and stuff. And it was more so just a community to where correction comes from any and everyone. You know, everyone wants to see the next generation blossom and grow. And who's in control of that? The generation of now. So it even ties into today. You were elaborating on some of the things that goes on with social media and stuff. We as a generation that are putting out these images and this perspective of this is the right way to get attention or the wrong way to get attention, it starts with us. So if we want the next behind us to be better, we have to be better within ourselves, which takes practice.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing happens overnight, you know, but it starts with us. And a lot of people are not willing to take the initiative to do so. So they'll get back to what you're saying. They'll point the finger and forget how many there's pointing back at them.
Well, see, and even though that's a cliche, it is. They're pointing back at you. Mm-hmm. It's like you just said, when we grew up in our community, it was. Mm-hmm. Usually the ass whoopings came from the other mothers.
Yes.
Because, you know, we grew up, we had Hispanic family, African-American family, we had Asian family, we had Portuguese families. I grew up in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. And you hated knowing that, okay, I could get away with it. No, Aunt Phyllis is going to find out. No, and then when you get in trouble, your mom's going to whip your ass when you get home. So it was a double ass whooping.
You're getting...
But it built up.
Worse of both worlds.
It built you up as a human being, and you knew you were cared about.
Right.
See, a lot of people think it's like nowadays, there's no discipline. Kids nowadays, you know, whatever they want to do in grade school, high school, teachers, God bless teachers. I literally don't know why any of you people decide to be a teacher. Number one, you don't make a lot of money. And if you're working with Columbia or all those schools out there, you're dealing with a lot of other shit. Mm-hmm. But the reality is they're the greatest gift. And they know going into school, a friend of our daughter, she graduated from college. It was $80,000 a year. She's a teacher now. She teaches first grade. Mm-hmm. I was like, just out of curiosity,
that's a tough
call
one.
me crazy. She's funny. I still live at home. I drive my mom's car. And I'm like, but you knew that it was going to cost you all this money. She goes, I just want to do it. And I said, but you're paying part of her salary, $36,000. That's your salary. Doesn't mean you take it home.
Right.
So what teachers offer is something amazing. But how many people really give a damn about our teachers nowadays? They crap all over them. They blame them when the kids don't get the homework. Well, if a kid goes home, you don't do the homework.
Right.
Our community, after school, everybody did homework. So, and there are great communities that still do that.
Yeah, but it's funny because there's after school programs now.
Yeah.
And more so the after school programs, it's just like a recess after school.
It's a babysitter.
They're not really taking the time to really help strengthen the education of the kids. So it's dwindling and it's going down the drain. So like you were saying for the teachers, one of my first episodes ever recording and stuff was with a teacher. Wonderful. And it was on basically how do we bridge the gap on not allowing the students to manipulate the parent at home and block the teaching that the teacher is really trying to give, And how do we make it more of a connection for if there's something going on with the student that they can confide in the teacher, because 9 times out of 10 kids are going to school.
Yeah.
And that's the person that they're seeing more so than their parent. So it's another extension of their growth and maturity. So that was more so what I was more bringing out of that conversation. But the knowledge and the information of it was really good, because there is ways, like these parent-teacher conference isn't just about the grades and stuff. It's also about the mental behaviors and things of that nature, which is the main reason why, we're here today, because I still am coining you. Literally, the master of mental health. Seriously. And the reason why I say that is because every day you're putting in forth practice. You're strengthening your education, learning more, not just about yourself, but about other people. So then you have more perspectives to go off of. You know more ways of life and stuff like that. It's not just a one-track mind, and this is just what I think. Based on the information and the people that you come across and stuff that you gather, that's how you assess the situations.
It's, you hit it on the spot. Like, I'm one of those people. I'm an angry human being. I'm very honest. I'm a vindictive human being. But I also realize by doing those, the main person who suffers is me now. Mm-hmm. I've lost tremendous amounts of money, relationships, friendships. And if I look at it, okay, 2 people tango. Mm-hmm. Could I have gone a different direction? Of course I can. Could I have listened to somebody else who'd been through this before and has a different demeanor? Of course I could. But I made those choices.
Right.
And those choices I made, and I'm willing to live with the negative aspect of it, because I am the one who helped create it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people, like with schools, like you said, the aftercare programs, all right, states don't want to fund them correctly. And the worst thing that I hear, like in my industry, I deal with a lot of people in rehabs.
Yeah.
So what they say is, well, I don't want to pay this much for this person who's higher level of, say, a therapist. So I'll bring someone who's lower level. Nothing against them,
right,
but they're paying. They don't want to pay more. I had a conversation with someone today. He goes, the doctor wants more money. I said, okay, if the doctor comes on board and does this for you, it's better treatment for all your clients. Mm-hmm. Well, they have somebody who's less qualified. I said, so when one of your patients dies or something goes wrong and you get sued, believe me, they ask me, I'm letting them know about our conversation.
Absolutely.
You made the choice. I'm not here to protect you from your stupidity.
Right.
Because I've made stupid choices just like many people. And the one thing I've learned through all mine is I sit back each day and I look at my relationships, I talk to people. I still have people in my life that help me stay focused and help me become accountable. Because in my past, I'd blame it on Jesus.
I say this all the time. Like, we don't have eyes behind us.
No.
So the people who do have a perspective of us should be allowed to give us that, because it's, a lot of people say constructive criticism, but it's also seeing things from whether it's positive or negative, however you want to assess it, but it's also giving you eyes where you can't see things.
It's so true what you just said, because many of us, when we're in a rage, like, you don't seem like someone who is angry a lot, but I would believe that when you get there, it's hard to go backwards.
I have my practices on how not to get there, but yes, when I get there, it's very, very hard to go backwards.
My brother's like that. My brother's like the most gentle jive, but I know when there's a look in his eye, I'm like, oh, sweet Mary, Mother of God.
And Dennis. For me, I did boxing, hands registered, so it comes with
yeah.
So
you have that. You know where you can go with something, but you also have the tools. And a lot of kids aren't given the tools. They're just not. Or the worst thing is, if you're given the tools of someone who's angry, if you're given the tools, if you grew up in a family and they use racial words, you don't know what the difference is. You're a kid.
Right.
If there's misogynistic towards women, you don't know who it is unless you're Donald Trump, pardon me. That person. Right. I don't mean to take over your show on that piece of crap. Mother of Jesus. Mm-hmm. But if that's the way you are, and you think about it, if someone like a Trump allows people to be misogynistic and racist, and they think, well, if the President of the United States is that way, why can't I be? There's no consequences for him. Why would there be consequences for me? Well, all you January 9th, whatever that date was, y'all sitting your ass in prison now. Mm-hmm. And that's what happens in real life. People I want to be like my uncle. I want to be like my dad. I want to be like the Kardashians. I want to be, now, I ain't bashing Kardashians because they helped create social media.
Yes, they did.
And at the same time, they destroyed.
Whichever way that they did.
The mother is a brilliant mind.
Yes.
And so they're realistic and smart enough to know that we're not going to be like them. The girls aren't going to be like them, but they've opened it up for other people to try. Mm-hmm. And my success and your success, who knows what it is when people want to do monetary. I work with people who work for the state of California. They've got $2 million, family friend, $2 million in the bank. They've worked there for 30-something years. Don't owe a bill. I work with people who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. IRS is after them. They've lost their houses, and they can't figure out why.
Not being responsible.
Thank you. It doesn't matter what you make or who you are, and how you handle it. The same thing in relationships. Mental health issues we all deal with. Anybody that says they don't. I love when I talk to people like they come in for addiction and, they're alcoholic. I had a lady tell me the other day, well, I'm not an addict. I'm like, okay. I said, explain this to me. I said, you've got 3 DUIs in the state of California. You've hit 3 cars in one night. She goes, well, an addict is someone who does drugs. They're dirty people. And I said, okay. I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, I deal with an eating disorder. I have a sex addiction and a gambling addiction. There's a lot of things about me. What would you call me? She goes, a sad life. What? And I said, what the hell do you mean? She goes, it's sad that you had those things. I said, okay. I said, but they're part of my life. And the worst part was she literally believes alcohol is an addiction. Now, she literally is probably going to spend time in jail for her 3rd DUI. So her perception was there's not a problem. But you're dirty if you're an addict. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been to, but you have the A meetings, the self-help meetings. People go, it's cool in this world to be a former addict. Someone does drugs and alcohol, sex, drugs, rock and roll, that statement.
Right.
Or P. Diddy.
Right.
And you have the, pardon me.
No D.
Now comes Jay-Z's turn. But now you have all these things. But I deal with an eating disorder. How cool is it when I go to OA meetings? You go to what? Oh, those people, heavy people, fat people, obese people, skinny. I go to meetings, people are like, why are you here? You don't have a problem? Yes, I do. It's so many people when they go to the meetings, it becomes their identity. I have people who say, I'm only going to hang out with people who are in AA. Really? Well, you're going to miss a hell of a lot in this world.
Completely.
And there's nothing wrong with them, but if you look at it, to me, it's an organization, any of these there's no hierarchy. I don't know if I'm sitting across from you and you are clean and sober. The predatory behavior in these meetings is the same everywhere. You think about it, when you're a teacher, you get to learn a lot about kids. How many of these teachers out there are predators? And it's horrible. But then here's the other thing you look at. When it comes to economic schools systems, where's a lot of abuse? The lower economic systems, because the teachers aren't stupid. They know no one's going to do anything. And what is it? Is it New York that has the rubber rooms? Is that what they call it?
Yes.
They have where teachers are getting paid a hell of a lot of money. They've been accused of something, but they haven't gone to trial. But the state still has to pay them. It's like in my business, I could tell you, if you ever came to me and said, hey, how can I make money? Here's what you got to do. You don't have to show up for work one day.
Take some notes down.
This is recorded? Yes.
Yeah.
And then we split the money. No.
Yeah, let's
But
go ahead and split that
people
profit.
are very calculative about what they do. And so how do we work with other people to get them to understand that's just not good? Because sooner or later it's going to fail. I truly believe, it's so funny, I truly believe that the greatest books, the greatest movies, the greatest songs, the greatest of everything, we probably have never heard, read, or seen because the people wrote it for themselves. And how many people do that for themselves? How many people are very peaceful and quiet and don't need the recognition? And recognition comes from ourselves. If you love yourself and like yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And also, the one thing I've learned too, social media, we all have egos. If we didn't have egos, we wouldn't be doing what we did. But we have a message. But when you're also in social media or you're in sports, there's also an acting. What you need to be in the front of somebody. You see so many people, we've dealt with athletes when their careers are over. Who am I?
Right.
I don't have anything.
No identity.
Same thing with singers. Same thing with all these. When their careers start to fade, you'll see them doing morongo. Pardon me. I don't know. I think that's what it's called, morongo.
Yeah.
You see
or
somebody.
pachanga.
Yes,
One of the two.
And nothing against them, but that's where they're playing now. And in the past, if you think about it, well, that's the lower end. Now you see some of the biggest names
Getting residencies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas has that. So it's kind of like babies. Babies need help. You get older, we're able to help ourselves. Then when you pass away or my mother passed away April 4th, 2022 or 2023, you see that back to a child. And in relationships, you see the new, the best, whether it's personal, family, sex, business. There's the honeymoon phase, there's the beautiful phase, and they're like, how the fuck do I get out of this phase? But if we have a purpose, and the purpose has the right positive things behind it, I think we have an opportunity. But it all goes back to how you started the show, about how someone says something to you. And if you have a positive attitude, and it's not always easy.
Right. It's a work in progress.
How do you handle that?
I wake up, despite whatever's going on in this head of mine, what I display out does not match what's going on at the time, unless it's like good and positive stuff. So every day, first thing I do is I literally get up, thank God. That's the first thing. I say it out loud, thank God, because I wouldn't be in these positions in life or have the moment to even thank him without him. So
True.
I give every moment to him because, again, without him, I won't have one. After that, I start to identify what I need to do for the day and what's the best way for me to accomplish the things that I need to do so I can get to the things that I want to do. Things that fulfill
Say that
me.
again.
Getting to the things that I need to do so I can get to the things that I want to do.
Yes.
So self-fulfillment. So let me do the adulting first, the things that we don't want to do. And then let me go ahead and do the things that makes me more me, that makes me happy, brings me inner peace, and also peace to others. Because if I'm not myself, then I can project that on others. And it's funny that you mentioned something that triggered a conversation I just recently had with a friend. Like, we will at times show empathy before even knowing the full story of situations. And I gave an example, and it was pretty harsh, but I'll give it to you. A buddy calls you up and like, hey, slurring, whatever the case may be, I got into a car accident. Initially, you're going to hear how they sound, and already you're going to be triggered because you're going to presume they're under the influence. You're not going to initially be like, oh man, dang, that's unfortunate. You're going to hear that they've been drinking. Mm-hmm. So I was telling this individual that before you go ahead and show empathy, ask questions, because that person's drinking and driving, but calling you for empathy. So when you're dealing with people with these type of mental health blocks to where they're just looking for, let's say, a shoulder to cry on, how do you get them to break out of that so they can really do the real development, really the self-change?
I want to ask or go back to something you just said about want and need.
Yes.
Okay. It's interesting how we want things in life, but in order to get there, you need something. It's a lot of people I've come across, they want to be in the public eye. They want to make money. They want to do, but they don't want to do the job. First of all, in order to pay your bills, you got to have some income.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the wrong type of income. You've got to have something. So in order to get what you want, you have to do what you need. So you mentioned that. That's a great thing. People have to understand that. Whatever I want to do today depends on if I do what I need, and it'll get me there. But when I deal with people that are like that, and I get it all the time. I've said this before. I have two friends that have been in my life for over 40 years, are no longer in my life. And I tell them, and I could care less, they live, they pass, they die. I don't want to hear. Because their manipulation, their predatory behavior, one of them made a comment about my mom, and that just, it's black and white with me.
That's a split line.
And I don't give you, and I love him to death, and I wish him the best, but I don't care.
And love him from a
And
distance.
people are like, well, forgiveness. I'm like, you don't have to forgive everybody. The only person, if I forgive myself, I'm going to make a better difference in your life.
Exactly.
Because what you were just saying is, that person, like example you said, that person is drinking and slurring, that person you don't know. If you get off if you as a person are first going to give them that empathy, oh, it's okay. You're buying into what they did wrong.
Exactly.
You're letting them know that it's okay. When I come across that, I'm very straightforward. Like I have an athlete I work with, a good example, NFL player, brilliant mind, brilliant whatever. But when we talk, I get straight to the point. And I've explained to him, we've already gotten there for 5 minutes. If we speak another hour, it's the same thing. Are you going to benefit? No. Now, you're going to waste my time? Pretty good chance. But I can help you with what you need in the moment. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your doctor. Many people don't understand. Doctors and therapists are brilliant. They go to school to learn. Right. Doesn't mean they know how to be a human. Doesn't mean they know how to humanize it. Doesn't mean because they have restrictions of what they can say because of their license and how they can act. I don't.
Right.
And I'm not better than them. I just have a different way of helping people. And my own experience is what I use. And what you just said, I would do that. My manipulation tactics are the greatest in the world for me. I knew what I needed to say. And it got so bad that I believed all my lies. So later on in life, I'm pretty good. I categorize lies here that are truths that are truths, lies I'll never freaking say to anybody and admit to.
Right.
But what I do is I explain to the person, okay, here's the situation. Let's take a look at what's your part in it. Like a gentleman I work with right now, he's had 4 relationships in the last year. 4, same type of woman, same cultural background, same job.
Sounds like self-reflection.
Yes. And every time it's over, oh, you wouldn't believe what they did. You know, I know every guy they were seeing. Well, first of all, they were all doctors. So I don't pretty sure think the doctors, they're not escorting. And if they were, that's their life.
Right.
None of your effing business.
You should did your homework.
So I asked him. I said, so what he does, he's the type of guy that'll meet a girl. He'll go on social media, find everything about them, and use that instead of getting to know them.
Yeah.
And so the despicable human being in that. And I said to him, I said, think about it. The common denominator is you. Oh, you don't understand. I said, I'm not interested in understanding. You badmouth these people. Because I think about it, it's interesting, guys or girls. If you meet someone and they start badmouthing that person in their past, what do you think is going to happen to you?
Once you're no longer part of their present.
Yeah, so I always explain to the people, let's take a look at your part right now. Let's take a look at it. And I have people who call me on my shit like that nowadays, so it really makes me think about it. Because there are days where I'm like, no, you don't understand. No, here's what it is. And then I realize, okay, they do understand. So I shut up and I listen. But it's hard when you come across someone like that who's looking for it, because here's what people say, oh, I'll just go to the next person. So you'll continuously go to the same people who help you stay in a dysfunctional state of mind, or who give you that comfort blanket of saying, I understand, poor you. Because it's so easy to be a victim.
And then you're not growing out of your problem.
No.
You're spending way more time on the problem than on the solution itself.
Well, it's kind of like when you go to self-help groups and stuff. Oh my God. It's like, seriously, 6 years now, I hear the same story. And everybody's there. You're going to do good.
You're definitely at the epicenter
Thank you very
of
much.
that earthquake there in your life.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, okay, grow up, stand up, and show up. And you have a better opportunity, whether you're male or female. And let's get real. In society, women have been treated different for years.
Of course.
Still. And in many ways, when it comes to business, women are their own worst enemy. They don't want to help each other.
Right.
They're worse than us men. When you're going to grade school and high school, guys go out and fight. It's over. Girls are the cruelest creatures to each other. They start rumors and spread. And God, it'll destroy a young lady.
It'll infest and then just start to
And
spread.
guys will go over there, beat the shit out of each other. And then later on, hey, blah, 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 and to a degree.
Yeah.
But when it comes to feeding into somebody's negative behavior, then you're part of the problem. And I always try to be part of the solution. And I let people know, look, okay, this isn't going anywhere. It's your same behavior. It's what it is. And I keep allowing you back in my life, or I keep giving you the same advice. It doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And it's painful at times to cut people out of your life, because it's hard to love someone, to truly feel that love for another human being. It's amazing. My sister, my nephew's wife has a baby, a little one. You can see the love of a mother. And so many, I love seeing mothers with their kids, dads too, but the
That
mothers give
nurturing,
birth. It's
yeah.
phenomenal. Pardon me, I'll say it this way. somebody, I was at, and I said this on my show once, somebody called me a pussy once, and I said, thank you. And the guy looked at me and I said, you realize that's the portal to life. God gave women the ability, not us guys. Hell, you can go buy sperm at a bank nowadays.
Pretty much.
You can't buy a vagina to have a baby.
Absolutely. Well,
you can. to a different
degree.
To a different degree, and you get paid, blah, blah, blah. But what I'm saying is, that's a responsibility they didn't give us men. And so when people like that, when people...
Other than male seahorses.
Yes.
Yes. Other than that.
So when you're out there and you're trying to seek someone to validate your negative lifestyle or choices, you're going to find them, because they're doing the same thing. So it's kind of hard to trust. Who the hell do you trust? And it's like I have someone in my life, during my life, and they're involved with the 12-step program, and they do the sponsorship, and I think it's wonderful. I can never sponsor somebody of those things, because I'd be the first to say, here's, I don't go by the big book, the book, whatever the book is. It's a great thing. It was written for people. But here's life.
Right.
It's not realistic, some of the things that are in there. You can't really put them in life. Forgiveness. No, that doesn't work all the time. But this person has her own issues still, but she doesn't talk about them. So the people she's trying to help have no idea behind the scene. She's doing everything she's telling them not to. Me, on the other hand, I try to tell you, like one of my football player the other day, he was talking. I said, look, it's a bad day, and I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow. He's like, well, what can I do? I said, let's just talk for a few minutes. We talked, and I felt good.
Right.
So it's about that, because then they know you're going through it.
You're human.
Yeah,
You're showing that.
How many times have you met someone who's never experienced what you've experienced, but says, I can help you?
Very rarely, because I'm usually the person that's the individual that's saying, I've experienced probably what you're going through. So 9 times out of 10, I can help you based on my journey.
But you've had experience. There are people who haven't had experience. They become doctors and therapists who have no idea. It's a good example. In my field, you have a lot of young LGBT community. You have a lot of young gay men and women. You have therapists who's never worked with the community. It's a whole different frame of mind. But you're going to tell me you can help the person. No, unless you've had a lot of extensive background and understanding.
A lot of practice.
A lot of practice with understanding their mind frame, because every time they wake up, somebody hates them. And if you, same thing with, we talked about earlier about race. If you don't understand racial issues, how are you going to say, well, it's just the way it is? No, it's not the way it is. It doesn't work that way. I'm
And
watching
then
a great
you're
series.
adding to being a part of the problem with that type of mindset.
Yeah, I'm watching a great series. Everybody thinks it's called Shogun, but it's called Shogun. I
Shogun.
just learned.
Shogun.
And again, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong because hell, I can't spell my own damn name. But you look at the cultural difference. It was England, the Portuguese, and Japan. And you, from a historical point of view, it's one of probably the most accurate TV series, and it's phenomenal to hear the cultures talk and the understanding. Because back then, it was raw. I mean, hell, they didn't even know others existed. But how they interacted with each other to learn. Because I think history is amazing.
Absolutely.
You said something earlier about no eyes on our back. The reality is we know our own history. If I know my history, how I am, I'm very good at, I can almost, any situation I get in, before it happens, I look back, have I done this before? Have I met this person before? What was the outcome? How do I get through this? How do I get around it? Or how do I just ignore it? We know how we've acted and what we've done in our past. We just choose not to. Because what's the great thing about history? It repeats itself.
I'm actually learning history within myself right now. We were speaking earlier about my dormanted anger or whatever things. I can mentally dwell on something, verbally talk about something, and physically go the opposite direction, like as if it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
And I'm currently in that circumstance right now, even based on how I even got to this point in general. I just literally go on, let it out so it doesn't fester in, but then also don't physically act upon what I mentally and verbally am speaking upon.
Yeah.
So it's just a practice that I constantly do to remind me of, you don't want to be stuck in the past. So make sure you don't make that a part of your present, because you'll block the blessings of your future.
Oh, and you have the future, because whatever time it is here, in 3 minutes from now, it's the future. You know, and it's interesting. I just saw there's a new Back to the Future, a new one. I think it's with Tom Holland coming out. I saw something. I'm thinking, damn, if we could go back to the future, what would you do? People ask me that. I wouldn't change a thing, because I'm the person I am today. Good, bad, indifferent. I always tell people I have no regrets, and I've done some very bad things in my life, but I did them with adults. And if I have regrets, if you and I have regrets, we're still going to doubt ourselves
Completely.
And if you don't like me, I can understand I did something, but at a certain point, it's okay.
Right, because it gets to a point to where, hey, I've only, even understanding that you don't, I'll do my best to try to change your perspective, but to a certain T, because at that point, I can't be stuck thinking and worrying about you and your perspective because it doesn't match mine of me.
Have you ever had somebody do this to you? They ask you a question, and you answer, and they're like, no, there's more to it. And I'm like, no, it's a yes or no. No, there's got to be, and I get that every day. Well, there's got to be more. It's like today, I was talking to a doctor, and I was arguing about something. She goes, well, there has to be more. I said, what I gave you is what I have. You make a decision, I'll deal with it. You make the decision that's wrong in my eyes, you'll deal with it. She goes, well, you have to give me more. I said, it's what's in front of me. You asked me to read you something. And a lot of people do that in life. You know, it's amazing. You know, they just want to do that for whatever reason. I don't understand.
Beating around the bush instead of getting straight to the point.
Because when you get straight to the point, it's painful.
Yes.
You have to look in a mirror. And I look in the mirror every day. I choose not to many times. I see a monster because I know what I've done, but I also see the good things that I'm doing and the good possibilities that I have, all based on God. Like you said, look, I got my issues with religion. Religion's not about God to me.
Right.
God is God.
Right.
And you're right. Without him, we're not here. But when people say, I got to abide by this book or that book or this or that, no.
He gave you free will for a reason.
Yes.
And
Make
he
a
knows
choice.
you're going to make mistakes, but it's about learning from those mistakes and how you conduct yourself after it.
Well, it's like herds of sheep. Or
Yep.
a good, better example is sheep. But also at the same time, turkeys. My uncle, when we were younger, had turkeys. When it rains, turkeys will look up at the sky and drown. They keep doing it. They don't know any better. So if you're going to be like a turkey, and this probably sounds very odd to some people, you're going to put your head up every time there's a problem. You're going to drown.
Yes.
There's no, you will die. It's a given. It was interesting in Shogun, where these guys knew that they were going to go back to a council. They knew that they were going to die, but they made the choice because it was honor. A lot of people don't have honor. And I think we've all had it, and we've lost it, and we gain it, we have it. But if you know you're making an effort's the most important thing. And when you stop growing as a person, then the people around you are going to be the same type of people.
Completely.
Do you want to be around people who are going to challenge you every day, who are going to call you out? I mean, I used to be that type of person that I'd avoid all those people. Now I have wonderful people who call me on my shit because I learned from it. And I realize it's an old behavior and it's my choice. But it all starts with, like you said, the first thing you said, it's about things when you wake up in the morning. And it's so funny. I didn't know anything, like I said to Mark, ask me anything and everything, because I like those types of, first time I've done an interview on a show, on a podcast.
Yes, welcome. Got him first.
No, I love it. But the great thing is I learned a lot about me, but the good thing is I've learned a lot about you.
Yes.
And when you go into something, the one thing I've learned is talking to people that say, this is your show. Most people say, well, how am I going to get your show to promote me? It's like, okay, you're never going to get what you need.
Completely.
Because basically it's ignorance. And it's not what you say out of your mouth, it's your actions that are going to do it.
Completely.
And your actions have proven what you're doing, what you're talking to me downstairs about other opportunities, how you met the person. Those are stories that are real. Those are stories you're like, okay, we got to do a really good Telemundo episode on that.
Thank you
And
so much.
I say Telemundo because I don't understand Spanish, but when I watch an episode, they could say, I got to go to the bathroom, I just shot my dog.
Right.
It's so sexy.
It's so compelling, like you're just drawn into it.
Oh yeah, but a lot of times people don't want to do that, because think about it. What's the easiest thing for us to do? To me, it's the Bill Murray. I always say this with people, it's Groundhog's Day. What I know, I know. If I know something's negative, I already know what's going to happen. I stay in it. Relationships, men and women who stand. I have so many people tell me, a good example, I had a young girl tell me 3 years ago, and one of the most horrific stories. A young Jewish girl, she was in treatment. Her boyfriend was Aryan Nation. He was at Folsom at the time. She would show us the letters he wrote. Just the most derogatory comments about her being Jewish, her family, but she loved him. And we tried to get her, she loved him because no one loved her, and she had a hard time with her family. He stated in the letters, if he ever gets out of prison, he was going to kill her. Stated in the letters. He got out of prison, 48 hours later, she was dead, and he turned himself in. And it was like she didn't believe that she deserved more. She didn't believe that she deserved anything. And it's heartbreaking because people don't believe they deserve. So and when I'm using something so exaggerated like that, we're going to stay negative because we think that's all we believe. I have some people say, well, I deserve it. Look, if you've committed a crime, if you've hurt somebody, if you did something diabolical, you did it.
Right.
If the same thing's coming back, you don't deserve to be treated the way you treated another person. And people always say, well, what is that, karma? Karma's a great thing. An eye for an eye. Well, first of all, there'd be a lot of blind people in this freaking world.
Would be.
More than Stevie Wonder, but I don't even know if he's blind, because that sucker
and Ray. Yes. Someone was talking to me about Ray. Like, Ray was back basically creating all that crap that he was getting into. He probably saw and was just pretending like he didn't.
Well, you have people out there talking about that. And I'm not being derogatory towards a gentleman, but you look at it that way. We choose to, and a good example, we choose to say blind to what's in front of us. Think about it. I have a friend who's no longer in my life because he was very verbally abusive to women. He made a comment once, and I said, that doesn't work with me. If you need to make those comments, you're not in my life. He goes, well, I'm not going to change. It's been a year, never spoken to him.
Understood.
Because then I'm co-signing.
And you're going against your morals.
And I don't want to be that person. It's like, what kills me is when people say, well, I sang the song and there was the N-word in it. You don't sing the N-word. I don't care what color your skin is. You don't sing it. Because then I'm co-signing you wanting to think it's okay. It's not okay. It's just not okay. Or if you have a derogatory comment about a woman, it's not okay. So anybody who does those things, I let them know, you've got this conversation. The next time I have to end it.
And a lot of people, because I've come across that in my life, of course, that it's a word and it's out there. But I've come across individuals that use the excuse of, well, this is the background I grew up in. I understand that's the background you grew up in, but that word did not come from the background you grew up in.
No.
It's further, and it has a different meaning. So it does not apply to that. And
No,
some
not
people
at
like
all.
to use that as their reason of using it. And
Well, I grew up in Sacramento, California. We grew up with something called the United Browns, one of the first gangs in Sacramento. Grew up African-American family. Look, every word didn't give me any right to say it. Doesn't matter if you grow up in it. Doesn't matter if it's in a song. Don't sing the damn song. You don't use the word. But people think because someone else, well, you use it. That's your choice.
Right.
And you also, I think people have to realize, too, there are people who make mistakes. And so people want to cancel everybody in this world. There are people who need to be canceled.
Oh, completely.
Completely. But there are also people who need to be given a second chance. Because like what we're talking about, if people didn't give us a second chance, I know if people didn't give me a second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way down to 100 chance.
Same.
And it's okay. But you also know when something comes out of your mouth, whether it's good or bad. We all know if we're going to hurt somebody. I know everybody in my life that I deal with now. I've learned what's good and what's bad in their life. I know if I can trigger them by one word. how shitty of a human being if I use the words that are going to hurt them.
Think of someone else's feelings before you express
Yeah.
yours.
And I've learned that. There are people right now, believe me, there are people on my way here driving here. I was thinking, okay, I can't wait to have a conversation because I'm my sakes. And then I realized it's not my place to hurt them. They're
Right.
suffering enough. 2 years ago, I tried to hurt them and their future kids. And the reality is there's a lot of growth. It doesn't mean I'm better than anybody. It doesn't mean that I have more of a purpose. It just means that this is what works for me.
Such a unique individual, ladies and
thank
gentlemen.
you.
Like,
There are a lot of people who do
like,
this, but
we're gonna try our best to get through this next point of it fast, because again, it's not about me; it's about the individual in front of us. And I have an amazing segment called Blast from the Past, where I take images and things from your past and try to get your rapid fire idea
cool.
of and how it makes you feel.
All right.
Okay, so Mastermind Mark, let's go ahead and get this going.
All right, here's the first one. 3, 2,
Holy crap.
1.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, Mother of God. If you want to embarrass a human being, show that.
He's an amazing author.
Well, it's funny. The people hiding under the table is funny because when I first came out with an eating disorder, I talked to people and they said men don't have them, or they questioned my sexuality. It was like, okay, neither one works that way. And so I wrote this because I just needed to for me.
Right.
And, it's sold some books and people. I didn't do it monetarily, but the fact is, it made a difference for me to feel really, oh my God.
Yes.
Where the hell did you find it? Did you get that like in an antique bookstore?
Yes,
But
it's an original
It
copy.
felt good because to put something out there and to be honest. And since then, so many different things have happened and changed. But, I did it and I'm proud of it.
I'm proud of it.
Well, thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
What else we got, Mark?
Oh, my Lord Jesus.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Bam.
This was fun.
Amazing model, by the way.
Well,
as
it's funny. I did some stuff in New York a long time, a lot of fashion shows, Jean-Paul Gaultier and different stuff. I never did a lot of other things I did. But Jai, who's Mark's girlfriend, and who's a brilliant fashion stylist, who's got a brilliant mind,
Completely.
put together these things. And I got my hair after this, but I love it because it is who I am. And, I have people who say, your age, you wear earrings, your age, this. I'm like, at my age, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
But I just have had fun. That was one of the fun days of my life. That was such a blast.
It's so funny because Jai, the queen behind the scenes, she's been ripping it up, got so many projects going on. I'm so proud and happy, for her. She also said the same thing about this photo, that it was just amazing. The energy that day was electric, like just
Well,
hands down.
it's interesting. Like I tell when I do my shows here with Mark here, it's a different energy. When I did this, if Jai wasn't there that day, it wouldn't have been that way. And the great thing about Jai, what I love is she can work with anybody. A lot of people are stylists, can only work with, say, African-American people, Hispanic people, culture. And that's true. They only know that. That doesn't matter who it is. And she helps you feel better about yourself.
Completely.
Because I deal with a lot of body image issues, no matter how I look. And this day I had to have my shirt on. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what the fuck? But then I did. And I was like, okay. Because the reality is no one else cared about how I looked. In my mind, it was crazy. But no, I love this picture. It was, I still have those shoes.
What I would say to Jai's styling is brilliant versatility.
Oh, 100%.
Seriously.
Yes.
What else we got, Mark?
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
This was an interesting day. I felt like shit. It was a very difficult day. I didn't sleep the night before because I was so worried about these. This picture without a shirt on is the first time I'd ever taken a picture in over 20 years, probably longer, without a shirt. And it was very conscious that day. Now, it's interesting. Since that day, my body's changed even better because, it's amazing when you deal with an eating disorder, what your mind thinks and your body reacts. But this was a fun day. And actually, I froze my believes in Jesus off because I had to stand outside and there's a swimming pool. But it was a fun day because for personally, no matter how it turned out, it was accomplished for me to sit there in front of other people and not be ashamed, embarrassed, and just hate myself.
Comfortable in your own skin.
And part of that day, I had those feelings, but then I realized nobody else is thinking that. I think that's a big thing like we talked about earlier. If we think it's negative, it's negative. Doesn't mean anybody else. It's kind of like a good example going to a movie. You might like a movie, I might not. I'm not going to change my opinion just because you didn't like it, and you're not going to change yours.
Right.
So we always try to convince other people. Those of us who, it's interesting, those of us who deal with eating disorder and body image, we always try to change people's mind when they, like when people used to compliment me, you're a fucking loser. I don't want you in my life because you're lying to me. And then I finally realized, at a certain point, it's the truth.
Yeah.
But no,
You start feeling yourself.
Just an egotistical motherfucker. No, this was really good. I had a great time that day.
Also styled by the queen behind the scenes, Jaima.
Yes.
What else
All
we
right.
got?
3, 2, 1.
All right.
This was a blast. This was the same day we did the green suit, the Joker suit.
Yes.
And what I love about this is it's like I like to smile and have a good time. And what I love about this, the clothes, it's just comfortable. Like I've said before on my shows, I dress comfortable, I sweats and everything. And, you know, it's just who I am. But these days it was just different, and I have all the clothes still. But this was just a fun day. This was a fun shoot. Yeah, and I'd had earrings my whole life, but never wore rings. And when Jai brought them out, I'm like, oh, okay. But there's such a sense of fucking freedom. It was the weirdest feeling. It's like, you know what? But this was a great day. And I love this picture too.
This was amazing as well. The hair just, out there. Gave me a little Nicolas Cage, vibe right there.
And talk about dressing comfortably. 3, 2, 1.
Boom.
This was the same. It was just great because black clothes are phenomenal. They bring out a lot. It was just fun. The background of this one is what makes a picture to me. And again, it was the photographer and Jai helping with the style and everything. It just was really fun, and it looked great to me. Yeah, when they first showed it to me, I was like, but then when I saw it afterwards, it was fun, and it was nice to feel good about it.
Very
I guess that's the
sharp,
bad way.
And definitely love the extra dimension behind you.
Oh yeah, that wall was phenomenal. Yes.
We got anything else?
Oh, I think that's the last
That's
one.
it.
That's
All
it.
right, but that's not it. Because again, you are a gift. You are a gift, not just to myself, but to everyone out there in need of help.
Well, thank you, my friend.
I do have another segment called, Shoe Pug Inspiration.
Uh-huh.
They're big on inspiring people, to go above and beyond. So, because you always go above and beyond for others, I want to do the same for you. Yes, the latest and greatest Shoe Pug hoodie.
Oh my God!
And some Shoe
Oh my
Pug
God!
socks.
Pug.
Yes.
I did not hear
Shoe
what that. I
pugs.
thought you said shoe mug.
Oh no! But
Oh,
we
my
but we're working on some mugs with some pugs on them.
Thank you, my friend.
No, thank you. But
that means the world to me.
in your field of practice, could you elaborate and tell me a person's story that inspired you?
I have a dear friend who owns a rehab center, and this guy's gone through hell in life. Lost his parents, abusive family, but a brilliant mind. He's his own worst enemy. Federal prison in the past, but built himself up, became a therapist. To this day, he's his own worst enemy. But his heart is one of the most beautiful hearts in the world. And he gives a damn about people to his own detriment. He's got a family, that brilliant people when it comes to the medical field. He went through so many trials and tribulations, growing up Jewish man, all the comments and same thing, people saying, but he's able to separate his past and all that stuff to help people nowadays. You'll never hear him talk bad about himself. You'll never hear him talk bad about other people. He's just his own worst enemy. He knows that, if anything he does is wrong. And also, I say the most important person in my life, pardon me, the most inspiring person. He's inspiring. My brother, Richard.
Yes.
My brother, without my brother, I'd probably be in federal prison or I'd be dead. My brother lost his wife years ago, and he remarried one of the most beautiful people in the world. And my brother takes a look at things and just, he sees what it is in front of him. And my brother's one of those people, and he'll be the first to tell you, he's never wrong when it comes to me.
Okay.
And the reality is, the situation, he's never been wrong. And he always just says to me, I just want you to be happy. So we all have a different idea of what happiness is, and we all live a crazy life in our own head. But that's the most inspiring person because the way he handles things, he's got a heart of gold, and he's a good person. But, I know what he's gone through, and he's just still an amazing human being. And but yeah, those are the two most important people that I've learned from.
And before we clock out, I don't give I don't give flowers. I give golden nuggets because flowers die. You're only able to say your brother's great because that greatness is also in you. Takes one to know one.
Thank you.
So what you see is what you possess, also in yourself.
Oh, I believe it. It's like my brother and I are both Scorpio.
Oh yeah.
And if you know anything about Scorpio, I'm the personification. Just to leave it with the funny thing, my brother was in town a couple months back after my mom died. We're sitting at a restaurant, and I looked at him. I'm like, Rich, you know the same birth sign. He goes, we're not alike. Not a chance in hell. And I started laughing so loud. And I'm like, Rich, we are. He goes, no, we're not alike.
No.
And the reality is we are. He just manifests it different. Yeah. But thank you. This has been a wonderful, this has been a blessing for me.
I want everyone to get a breath of fresh air every day like I do from your TikToks and your Instagram posts and everything.
Thank you.
It helps me with my mental health. So could you let everyone know your Instagram and TikTok handles so they could also be inspired?
YouTube, I know it's called the Dennis Henning Podcast Universe.
Yes.
My Instagram is the Dennis Henning. Mark, what's the TikTok?
That's correct. The Dennis Henning everywhere. So yeah, check that out.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Oh, I'm also going to be working with them behind the scenes to have it like that too.
But yeah, no, I appreciate this. This means a lot.
It means more to me than you know. And again, I love for people to become a repeat offender. So yeah, this is just one of many. I would love to have you back on.
I'd love to have you on my show as well.
Yes.
Because here's the good thing about, what I loved about doing this, because it's like I told Mark, I didn't know what the hell to expect. And not a lot of people ask the questions you ask. A lot of people ask surface questions.
Right.
But they bring up surface things that we can all, like kumbaya and all that bullshit. And the good thing is, the things that you talked about helped me to learn, especially when you talked about your community. And because it's real and a reality that if we share our experiences, other people can learn if they choose to. I definitely want to figure that out.
Each one can teach one.
Yes,
and
sir.
I appreciate it. I can't wait to be on his platform. And you guys already know I love you for being here and joining us. Again, every Taco Tuesday. Tune in. I'm your host, Sbpres, and like that, we're gone.
First, let me demonstrate how you can rise to